Hi everyone, Deborah Stewart, and today I am going to work on an abstract floral pastel. And what I'm going to do is I have a piece of Reeves BFK paper here on my board. I think it's probably the weight of a 110 GSM, not sure, but it's not a heavy weight, it's not really light, it's just kind of in the middle. And it actually is an off-white, but you can use white or off-white, it doesn't matter because I'm going to paint it. And the first thing I'm going to do is I've decided I'm going to put down a red underpainting on this paper. And so I'm going to take a big brush. I have some golden fluid acrylic in cadmium red hue, and I'm going to put some down, and I might even put a little bit. Now I think I'm just going to make it red. I'm not going to add any other colors. I had thought maybe I would add a little bit of Viridian, but it's not a very big piece of paper, so I think this time I'm just going to keep it with a red underpainting. Then I'm going to take one of my flower drawings that I did based on the flowers that I have in a bouquet, and I'm going to place those on top of the red underpainting. Then I'm going to put some golden ground for pastel on top of that, and I'll be ready to apply my pastels. So it's kind of a multi-layered process. First I did the drawings from life, and now I'm going to do some underpainting on the paper. So I'll show you the whole process, and you can try it with something simple. I would say I have quite a few flowers here on this drawing. I'm not going to use all of them. I might just pick maybe 3 or 5 at the most and place them on my underpainting. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, well, I can have just a little bit of paint because that fluid acrylic goes a long way. And I have this brush, which is a nylon brush, and I'm going to put down some underpainting. I'm just going to keep it kind of wild like that. And I'm not going to paint the whole paper. That's what I'm going to do. I think right there, like that. I think that is probably enough. Let me see if I want anything. Maybe I'll kind of lighten that up a little there. And maybe just a little there, I think. Yeah, that's probably a good amount of underpainting. Now I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer. Okay, so here I have my dried underpainting. Now I'm going to take some compressed General's charcoal that I have. I like drawing with this. I like the black lines, so that's what I'm going to use. And I've got my drawing that I did, and it's hanging on the wall over there, and you can't see it, but I can. So that's what I'm going to use as a reference. And I'm just going to pick different things off of that drawing, and I'm going to move them around wherever I want them to be. Let's see, well, I think I'm going to take this big flower that's back there. And I'm just going to redraw based on my drawing. think that's probably good right there. Then I'm going to put, I think I'm going to put some little it all has to do with composition. It's like I have this, now I want something down here. What can I put down here? I think I'm going to put some leaves, kind of some bigger shapes that I drew. Okay, I think I keep going here. Okay. Okay, so now I have these. What am I gonna do in here? You know, I think I'm gonna put some more things right in here and leave this kind of open. So I think I will put in this little rose-like shape that I drew. It was very complicated and I didn't draw the whole rose. I just kind of drew some things around the edges because there's no way I was going to draw every petal of that rose. So I have that, and I think like a stem, and then maybe some even smaller, out. That maybe just a little bit more right in here, smaller shapes. Let's see. So that's probably good for right now. I think I'm just going to have these shapes, and you know, I didn't copy my drawing exactly the way that it was, and I just took little pieces and I placed them different places. And I don't have any idea on how this is going to turn out, but we will see. Sometimes I like to put a little bit of shading in, so I might do that, and you'll see why. But you see how the underpainting goes through, where there's white and there's red and there's white spots. Those are the kinds of things that I use in the finished pastel. So, and once I get the clear gesso on here, if I think I need more shapes or things like that, I can always add more. So underpainting and draw on the underpainting from the drawing I already did, and move those different shapes around kind of like a puzzle and put them wherever I want to put them. And because it's an abstract floral, it's not going to be realistic, and it's just going to be really an abstract with some floral shapes in it. So next I'm going to put the Liquitex clear gesso on here with a rough brush and dry it. Okay, so I'm going to use Liquitex clear gesso to create a surface for my pastel. And the reason I use this is because it's clear and it'll go right over everything I've drawn, and it also has grit in it, so my pastels will stick to the paper. And I also have just a cheap bristle brush from the hardware store that I'm going to use to put this on. I have some really wide ones, and this is a 2-inch, so it's big enough for this. And I'm going to put some of the gesso on a plate, and I'm just gonna put this on here, right on top of the drawing, which it will mess up some of the drawing, but that's okay. I put it all over, and I don't pay any attention to which direction is everything going as far as the brush strokes. I just want to get it on there, and I want to get plenty of it on there. And the brush also is dry. I'm really careful to not use a wet brush. I will soak this brush when I'm finished, but I don't want to dilute the gesso. I want it to go on full strength right out of the bottle. And I use the bristle brush because I want some texture to the surface, because it's going to make the finished pastel more interesting, in my opinion. So there we go. I've got quite a bit on there, and now I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer, and then I'll see what my next step is going to be. Okay, here is my drawing, and I have a lot of outlines here, and I'm not going to color in the lines, but one of the things that I want to do too is I want to create some more value. So I put down some of the compressed charcoal, and I am just a little bit, and I'm going to brush it. I could brush it with a couple of different things. I could brush it with some rubbing alcohol, which is hard to find right now, but I could rub it with that, brush it with that. I could put some fixative, some Spectrafix. That's what this is, Spectrafix. I could spray that on. Let me just brush on a little bit of the alcohol. It darkens it up a little bit because I really want to stay away from kind of being tempted to color in the lines. Now, I've let this clear gesso sit for overnight, so it's actually dried some. If I would do this right away after I dried it, this alcohol might dissolve some of that clear gesso. So I'll dry it, but then I'll have to feel it again to make sure that that grit is still there where I just put that alcohol. And if it isn't, then I'll need to put some more clear gesso on there again. And what I could have done also is to put the charcoal down, and I could have put some clear gesso on top of it to do the same thing. But I like to have a range of values in the underpainting. The more of a range of values I have, from dark, medium to light, the more successful the pastel will be. If everything is really light, it's going to be harder, I think, to get value with the pastels. So I'm going to dry this. I'm going to feel it to make sure there's still grit. And then I will pick out my colors for this pastel, and I'll start to apply those colors in reds, oranges, maybe some pinks, the complementary color of some greens, maybe some olive, yellow, green. Those are the colors that I'll pick. I'm going to pick a color scheme that is complementary colors, and red and green are complementary colors. And then I'm going to pick a range of pastels from dark to light, and I'm going to line them up on a table right next to me, and I'll show you those before I get started. Okay, so I did add a little bit more clear gesso because after I felt it, it wasn't gritty enough. It still could stand to be a little bit more gritty. I really like to feel that texture, but I'm going to start working on it. And I've got pastels that I've picked out. So I'm going to start with some of the darker ones first, I think. And, you know, I like to clean them on the roll of paper towels as I work. So, and that also helps me test the colors. And I'm gonna just put everything down really light in the beginning, barely touching the paper, and just get those dark ones around and avoid coloring in you know, I do pay attention to where the edge of a leaf or a flower ends and the background begins, but I also really don't want to spend a lot of time, say, coloring things in. And where it's white because of the brush stroke, I leave that and I start to put in lighter pastels in those areas where there are where the paper is showing through, because that adds to kind of the abstract nature of I think I'll put a little in the background. I put them in really loose with the side of the pastel at first, and then I can go back in later. And I also might make these flowers, you know, different colors from each other, but for right now, I'm not doing that. So let's see. I use a lighter pastel down here. I think I'll put in right now as I look some of the lighter background colors. And I picked out just a few colors. I'll probably, you know, change those up as I go. As far as the greens, I have some olive greens and I've got some more blue greens. I think in the background, I don't want just one color of green, but I want some olive green and I want some blue green. So I may need to find myself some more lighter versions of an olive green, which I'm looking around. That's why you can't hear me as well, because I'm like looking around for those colors. Now this is kind of a greenish gray. I like that. I don't want just one color in the background, and maybe I want it a little darker up here on top and then get lighter down here on the bottom. And I also want to be sure that I've got some neutrals in here. I love this neutral. This, you know, what it is it's a dark yellow. So it's almost like a yellow ochre in a way. And the texture from the brush on the paper is what I really like about this process, because I love being able to hit the ridges of that texture, because it really makes the pastel sparkle. Let some of that red show through, but As far as the pressure I'm putting on the pastel, it's really light, like a feather touch. The more pressure I put on the pastel, the heavier the pastel application is going to be. So I really try to keep it light in the beginning. And I can, pick some additional colors as I go along. Leaves, I think I might want some blue-green, some lighter versions of blue-green. This is kind of a gray. Everything is kind of a variation. I'm always looking for the variations of a color. I don't want to just use one color, and I want to move that color around also. I'm going to go back into that flower and see how it goes through these leaves here. And this is red. I'm going to leave that like that because I like that effect. And maybe I will move. This is a yellow-green, which is meant for the leaves, but I think I'll put this in part of the flower also. I want to separate the flower from the background, but I also want to put those colors, move them around. I'm really thinking of this more like an abstract than I am, oh, this has got to look just like a flower. And maybe you might wonder, well, why do I use the drawing instead of just a photograph? I like the simplified version of the drawing. The drawing helps simplify things, which I think are really important for abstract. I think it's good to get away from thinking, well, this is the way it has to look. This is the color of that flower. Now, this is the color of an abstract, and it doesn't have to look exactly like the flower that I drew. Okay, I think I used that color. So I'm going to try this one. A little bit different. Oh, I like that. I think I'll put that here. See, and I go over those lines. I don't want to be coloring in the lines. The lines are there, but okay, let's see here. I think I want a different color. Maybe this one. I pulled out some different pastels. Most of these I'm using are unisons in the beginning because I've taken all of the labels off. They're the ones I like. I think so. I'm showing you the process, and I'm not going to finish this whole pastel probably, but I'll try to do as much as I can. Okay, so I think, I've got red violet, I've got some yellows and some yellow greens. I think along with the reds, the red violet, some blue violet might really help. Some more intense, like here is a blue violet that I might use. Oh, it's kind of dark, but to go around maybe and put a line here or there. It could stand to be even a little bit lighter. Let's see, what about this one? Yes, this one I think. And I want the lines different weights. I don't want to make a heavy line everywhere. So I may put this line down here. kind of helps things stand out from the background around it a little bit. All right, okay, I think I'll do a little bit more on the background now. Maybe with some of this yellow green down here. Okay. Okay, it's starting to come along, and you can see how this kind of a wild underpainting really has helped loosen this up, give it a design. Now I'm going to put some blue-green in here, I think. There we go, in the background. So if I just put it over it a little bit, and I can still leave some of that red, which makes it interesting, doesn't it? Okay, I think what I want to do is I want to get some more of a certain color. I have these colors that I really like. I think this one, again, another one of those earthy colors, and maybe even a lighter version of it. Here we go. There, kind of a lighter version. And leave that red kind of popping through, and it gives a real sparkle. Okay, I'm kind of liking that on how that's going. Now, I have also pulled out some of these Diane Townsend pastels. They're really kind of intense, and I usually save them for the end. I like the colors. They are, you know, expensive. They're gritty. They really, look at that, really is a great way to get a good line. So I've got several like flower types of colors. So I'll start putting some more of those kinds of, I do magenta one. So let me, they're really great for the end. It's kind of like putting frosting on the cake because they're so soft and they add a lot of intensity to certain places. But I don't usually use them for a whole pastel, just where I want like a really heavy application. So that's what I do. I think, okay, let's put some really bold mark in there. And that's when I get them out. Okay, so you can see this is flowery, but it's not a flower. It is flowery. So let's see, I think I want okay, I like that. And maybe I will put some of that up there. And all right, I think I want to go in even with some white and have some little spots in between things. Sometimes there are little punches through like the space behind something. So I think I'm gonna put in a little white, kind of put some punches through there. And, you know, this might be good for right now. I've got to step back and take a look and see just, well, where am I going with this? Well, how am I going to bring this to a conclusion? What am I going to do? How am I going to stop working on it? But I find this so much more fun than trying to make a flower, using a flower for an abstract. And to me, it turns out much more interesting this way.